The rain hammered against the towering glass windows of the penthouse on Park Avenue, each droplet racing downward like tears the city refused to shed. Maya Rodriguez stood in the marble foyer, her worn canvas tote bag clutched against her chest, her dark eyes fixed on the polished floor beneath her feet. She could feel the weight of Mrs. Vanderbilt's glare burning into her skull, could hear the sharp click of expensive heels approaching across the pristine white marble. "You have some nerve," Mrs. Vanderbilt hissed, her voice dripping with contempt. The older woman's face was stretched tight from too many cosmetic procedures, her lips pulled into a thin line of disgust. "After everything I've done for you people, this is how you repay me? By refusing a simple request from my son?" Maya's jaw tightened. She kept her gaze lowered, a survival mechanism she had learned in her 3 years working as a domestic employee in Manhattan's wealthiest households. Speaking up only made things worse. Defending herself only provided them with more ammunition, but the heat rising in her chest refused to be contained. Not this time, not after what Mrs. Vanderbilt's 35-year-old son had done in the hallway outside the guest bathroom just an hour ago. "It wasn't a simple request, Ma'am," Maya said quietly, her accent thickening slightly as it always did when emotion threatened to crack her carefully maintained composure. "He grabbed my arm. He said things that were inappropriate. I asked him to stop and he didn't." Mrs. Vanderbilt laughed, a cold, brittle sound that echoed through the cavernous entryway. "Oh, please, you're being dramatic. Richard is a friendly person. He's an investment banker, for heaven's sake. He would never do something so crude." She took a step closer, and Maya could smell her perfume. Something French and expensive that probably cost more than Maya's monthly rent for the studio apartment she shared with her mother and younger brother in Washington Heights. Besides, even if he did show some interest, you should be flattered. A man like Richard doesn't usually notice girls like you. Girls like you. The words landed like a slap. Maya finally lifted her gaze, meeting Mrs. Vanderbilt's cold blue eyes directly. In that moment, something shifted inside her, a wall that had been holding back years of humiliation and swallowed pride finally beginning to crack. "I quit," Maya said, her voice steady despite the trembling in her hands. "I don't need this job badly enough to accept being treated like I'm not human. You can keep the week's wages you owe me." She turned toward the private elevator before Mrs. Vanderbilt could respond, before the older woman's shocked expression could transform into the rage Maya knew was coming. The elevator doors slid open with a soft chime, and Maya stepped inside, pressing the button for the ground floor with more force than necessary. As the doors began to close, she caught a glimpse of Mrs. Vanderbilt's face, red with fury, her mouth opening to shout something Maya would never hear. The descent from the 40th floor felt both endless and too brief. Maya leaned against the elevator's mirrored wall, closing her eyes and taking slow, measured breaths. Her mother's voice echoed in her mind, the same words she had spoken since Maya was a child. "Mija, we keep our heads down. We work hard. We don't make trouble. That's how we survive in this country." Indeed, but survival at what cost? How many times was she supposed to endure hands that lingered too long, comments that made her skin crawl, looks that stripped away her dignity piece by piece? The elevator opened onto a sleek, minimalist lobby, where a doorman in a pressed uniform barely glanced at her as she hurried past. Outside, the October rain had intensified into a downpour that soaked through her thin jacket within seconds. Maya didn't care. She walked quickly down Park Avenue, dodging puddles and other pedestrians, her mind already calculating how long her meager savings would last, how many days she could afford to be unemployed before panic truly set in. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. Maya pulled it out, shielding the screen from the rain with her hand. A text from her mother. "Mija, did you pick up the prescription? Your brother's inhaler is empty." Maya's stomach dropped. She had forgotten. Between the incident with Richard Vanderbilt and the confrontation with his mother, the errand had completely slipped her mind. She typed back quickly. "On my way to pharmacy now. Sorry, Mama." The nearest pharmacy was 6 blocks south. Maya picked up her pace, her sneakers squelching with each step, water dripping from her dark hair into her eyes. The streets of Manhattan seemed especially hostile today, filled with people who had places to be, people who belonged in this city in ways she never quite had, despite living here since she was 12 years old. At the pharmacy, Maya waited in line behind a businessman in a tailored suit who was arguing with the pharmacist about his insurance copay. When it was finally her turn, the pharmacist, a tired-looking woman with grey roots showing beneath badly dyed blonde hair, informed her that the insurance had denied the prescription. "What do you mean denied?" Maya asked, feeling the last reserves of her patience evaporating. "It's the same prescription he gets every month." The pharmacist shrugged apologetically. "I don't make the rules, honey. You can pay out of pocket. It'll be $84. $84. Maya had exactly $63 in her checking account until she figured out her next job. She opened her wallet, counting the crumpled bills she kept for emergencies. $40 in cash. "Can I pay part card, part cash?" "Sure, honey." Maya handed over her debit card, praying the transaction would go through, praying she hadn't miscalculated her balance. The machine beeped. Approved. She let out a breath she hadn't realized she'd been holding, accepted the small paper bag containing her brother's inhaler, and stepped back out into the rain. By the time she reached the subway station at 86th Street, Maya was shivering violently. The platform was crowded with other damp, miserable commuters, everyone avoiding eye contact, lost in their phones or their own thoughts. The one train arrived with a screech of brakes, and Maya squeezed into a packed car, grabbing a pole for balance as the train lurched forward. She closed her eyes, letting the rhythm of the train lull her into a kind of exhausted trance. Around her the city hummed with life, conversations in a dozen languages, the crying of a baby, the tinny sound of music leaking from someone's headphones. This was the New York she knew, the one that existed below the penthouses and private elevators, where people like her struggled and survived, and occasionally, against all odds, thrived. At 168th Street, Maya exited the train and climbed the stairs to street level. Washington Heights greeted her with its familiar chaos, bodegas with produce displays spilling onto the sidewalk, the smell of fried food from Dominican restaurants, groups of teenagers huddled under awnings, laughing and shouting over the rain. This was her neighborhood, where everyone knew your business, but also had your back when it mattered. She reached her building, a 6-story walk-up with fading yellow paint and a front door that never quite latched properly. Maya climbed the 3 flights to her apartment, her legs heavy with fatigue. Inside, she could hear the television playing and her mother's voice, gentle and patient, reading something aloud to her younger brother. "I'm home," Maya called out, kicking off her soaked sneakers by the door. Her mother appeared in the doorway of the small living room, concern immediately creasing her face. "Mija, you're soaked." "What happened?" Rosa Rodriguez was 48 but looked older, her hands work-worn, her hair streaked with premature grey. She had cleaned houses, worked in restaurant kitchens, and done whatever was necessary to provide for her children since Maya's father had died in a construction accident 9 years ago. "I got caught in the rain," Maya said, avoiding the larger question. She held up the pharmacy bag. "I brought Diego's inhaler." "Thank you, Mija." Rosa took the bag but didn't move, her dark eyes searching Maya's face. "But that's not what I'm asking about. Something happened at work." Maya sighed, peeling off her wet jacket and hanging it over the back of a kitchen chair. "I quit." "You what?" "Mama, please, I'll explain later. Let me just change into dry clothes first." But Rosa wasn't ready to let it go. "Maya, we talked about this. You can't just quit jobs because the boss's son tried to corner me in a hallway and his mother blamed me for it." Maya's voice came out sharper than she intended. She saw her mother flinch and immediately regretted her tone. "I'm sorry, Mama. I couldn't stay. Not this time." The fight drained from Rosa's expression, replaced by weary understanding. She had been in this country long enough, had worked enough of these jobs herself to know exactly what her daughter meant. "Okay, Mika, we'll figure it out. We always do." Maya changed into dry clothes in the bedroom she shared with her 13-year-old brother Diego, who was sprawled on his bed, absorbed in a book. He looked up when she entered, pushing his thick glasses up his nose. "Did you really quit your job?" "Thin walls," Maya muttered. "Why?" "Adult stuff. Don't worry about it." Diego returned to his book, but Maya could see the worry in the tense set of his narrow shoulders. He was too smart for his own good, always picking up on the unspoken tensions in their tiny apartment, always aware of how precarious their situation was. Maya felt a familiar surge of determination. She would find another job. She would keep them afloat. She had done it before, and she would do it again. That evening, after a dinner of rice, beans, and chicken stretched to feed 3, Maya sat at the kitchen table with her laptop, scrolling through job listings. Most required experience she didn't have, or education she couldn't afford. The domestic work positions paid cash under the table, which was how she had survived so far, but they also left her vulnerable to exactly the kind of situations she had fled today. Her phone rang, an unknown number with a 9114 area code. Maya almost didn't answer, assuming it was spam, but something made her press the green button. "Hello? Is this Maya Rodriguez?" The voice was male, older, with a thick accent she couldn't quite place. "Yes. Who is this?" "My name is Vincent. I got your number from an agency. I'm looking for someone to work at a private residence in Westchester County. The pay is good, room and board included if you want it, and the work is light. Are you interested?" Maya's instinct screamed caution. What kind of private residence? A large estate. The owner values privacy and discretion. You would be responsible for general housekeeping, some cooking, basic maintenance of the living spaces. Nothing difficult. "Why are you calling me at night?" Vincent chuckled, a dry, rattling sound. "The owner keeps irregular hours. We need someone who can start immediately. I understand you recently left your previous position." That made Maya sit up straighter. "How do you know that?" "The agency is very thorough. Look, Miss Rodriguez, I'm not trying to scare you. I'm simply trying to fill a position. The pay is $2,000 a week, cash. If you're interested, I can send a car to pick you up tomorrow morning for an interview. If it's not a good fit, the driver will bring you right back home. No obligation." $2,000 a week. That was more than double what Mrs. Vanderbilt had been paying her. Maya's rational mind told her this sounded too good to be true, that nothing in life came this easily, especially not for someone like her. But desperation had a way of drowning out rational thought. "I'll think about it," she said carefully. "I need an answer tonight. The owner is particular about timing." Maya closed her eyes. She thought about Diego's inhaler, about the rent that was due in 2 weeks, about the stack of bills on the counter that never seemed to get smaller, no matter how hard she worked. "Okay, send the car. What time?" 8 a.m. sharp. Be ready." Vincent rattled off an address for the pickup location, and Maya scribbled it on a scrap of paper. "One more thing, Miss Rodriguez. The owner values discretion above all else. Whatever you see or hear at the estate stays at the estate. Can you agree to that?" "I can," Maya said, though unease prickled along her spine. "Good. I'll see you tomorrow." The line went dead. Maya stared at her phone, wondering what she had just agreed to. Her mother appeared in the doorway, drying a plate with a faded dish towel. Who was that? A job offer. In Westchester County. Westchester? Mija, that's far. It pays really well, Mama. $2,000 a week. Rosa's eyes widened. That seems like a lot. Maybe too much. Maybe. But I have an interview tomorrow morning. If it seems wrong, I won't take it. But we need the money. Her mother nodded slowly, that familiar expression of resigned worry settling over her features. Just be careful, Mija. If something feels wrong, you leave. You understand? No amount of money is worth your safety. I understand. That night, Maya lay awake in the darkness, listening to Diego's steady breathing from the other side of the room and the sounds of the city filtering through the thin walls, sirens wailing, someone's television turned up too loud, the rumble of a truck passing on the street below. She thought about Mrs. Vanderbilt's cold contempt, about Richard's hands grabbing her arm, about the countless small humiliations she had endured in pursuit of survival. Maybe this mysterious estate in Westchester County would be different, or maybe it would be worse. But lying there in the dark, listening to the rain still pattering against the window, Maya made a decision. She was tired of being afraid, tired of shrinking herself to fit into spaces that would never truly accept her. Whatever tomorrow brought, she would face it on her own terms. She would not apologize for taking up space, for demanding respect, for refusing to be invisible. The rain eventually slowed to a drizzle, then stopped altogether. Somewhere in the early hours of the morning, Maya finally fell asleep. Her last conscious thought a whispered prayer to a God she wasn't sure she still believed in. Please, let this be the break I need. Please let me be strong enough to handle whatever comes next. Tomorrow would bring answers. Tomorrow would bring a black car with tinted windows and a driver who wouldn't meet her eyes. Tomorrow would bring the beginning of everything that would unravel and rebuild her understanding of herself, of power, of the strange alchemy that could transform a desperate maid and a hardened criminal into something neither of them could have predicted. But tonight, in the safety of her small room with her brother sleeping peacefully nearby, Maya allowed herself a moment of hope. It was fragile and foolish, but it was hers. And in a life that had offered precious little to call her own, that was enough. The city slept fitfully around her, a million stories unfolding in the dark, a million lives intersecting and diverging in ways both mundane and momentous. Maya's story was just one among countless others, but it was hers. And it was about to change in ways she couldn't begin to imagine. The rejected maid, who had walked away from a penthouse in the rain, would soon stand between a powerful man and certain death, her courage the only thing standing between order and chaos. But she didn't know that yet. For now, she slept and dreamed of a better tomorrow. The black Lincoln town car arrived at exactly 8 a.m., idling at the curb outside Maya's building with the patient menace of a predator waiting for prey. Maya spotted it from the third-floor window as she braided her still damp hair, her stomach tight with anxiety that even 3 cups of her mother's strong coffee hadn't managed to settle. "That's your ride?" Diego asked, peering over her shoulder, his glasses reflecting the morning light. "Looks like it. It looks like something from a movie, like a mob movie." Maya's hands stilled on her braid. Her brother had an unfortunate habit of saying out loud the exact thoughts she was trying to suppress. "It's just a nice car, Diego. Rich people have nice cars." "Yeah, but rich people also have drivers who get out and come to the door. This guy's just sitting there." He was right. The driver remained behind the wheel, invisible behind the dark-tinted windows. Maya finished her braid, grabbed the small overnight bag she had packed, just in case the position included live-in accommodation, and turned to her brother. "If I'm not back by tonight, I'll call you. Okay? Maya, maybe this is a bad idea. Since when are you the parent? Since you started making decisions that could get you trafficked or something." Despite her nerves, Maya laughed and ruffled his hair, earning an annoyed grunt. "I'll be fine. I'm scrappy, remember?" In the kitchen, her mother was packing food into a container, fried plantains, rice, some of the chicken from last night. "For your trip," Rosa said, pressing the container into Maya's hands. "You need to eat." "Mama, I'm going to an interview, not hiking the Appalachian Trail." "Humor me." Maya accepted the food, along with the fierce hug her mother pulled her into. Rosa whispered in Spanish, "Remember what I said. If anything feels wrong, you leave. You call me, and I'll find a way to come get you no matter what. I will, I promise." The descent down 3 flights of stairs felt like walking toward an uncertain verdict. Maya pushed through the building's front door into the crisp October morning, the air carrying the scent of recent rain and exhaust fumes. As she approached the town car, The rear passenger door opened smoothly, though she couldn't see who had opened it. "Miss Rodriguez." The voice came from inside the car, male and gruff. "That's me. Get in, please. We have a schedule to keep." Maya slid into the leather interior, her overnight bag clutched on her lap. The door closed behind her with a solid, expensive-sounding thunk. The driver was exactly what she had expected, middle-aged, thick-set, with close-cropped grey hair and a neck that looked wider than his head. He wore a dark suit and sunglasses despite the overcast morning. He didn't look at her as he pulled away from the curb. "It's about an hour drive," he said. "There's water in the compartment next to you if you want it." "Thank you." They drove in silence through Washington Heights, down through Manhattan, and across the George Washington Bridge into New Jersey before turning north toward Westchester County. Maya watched the city give way to suburbs, then to increasingly rural landscapes, trees still clinging to their autumn colors, large properties set back from the road behind stone walls and iron gates. This was a different world from the one she inhabited, a world of old money and carefully maintained privacy. "First time in Westchester?" the driver asked, breaking nearly 30 minutes of silence. "Yes. It's nice up here. Quiet. Mr. Caruso likes the quiet." "Mr. Caruso is the owner." "That's right. Dominic Caruso." The driver said the name like it should mean something to her. "And what does Mr. Caruso do?" The driver's eyes flicked to the rearview mirror, meeting hers for the first time. "He's a businessman. Import-export mostly. Real estate. Investments, the kind of things successful people do." The evasiveness of the answer told Maya everything she needed to know. This was exactly the kind of employer her mother had warned her about, someone whose wealth came from sources that didn't bear close examination. But Maya had known that from the moment Vincent had offered her $2,000 a week for light housekeeping. Nobody paid that kind of money unless there were complications. They turned off the main road onto a narrow lane that wound through dense woods. Eventually they reached a gate, tall, wrought iron, with security cameras mounted on stone pillars on either side. The driver pressed a button on a remote clipped to the visor, and the gate swung open with silent efficiency. The estate that sprawled before them looked like something from a different era. The main house was a massive stone structure with ivy climbing its walls, tall windows reflecting the grey sky, and a circular driveway centered around a fountain that featured some kind of classical sculpture Maya couldn't identify from the distance. To the left, she could see what looked like a garage complex that could easily house a dozen vehicles. To the right, manicured gardens stretched toward a grove of old-growth trees. "Welcome to the Caruso estate," the driver said, pulling up in front of the main entrance. Before Maya could respond, the front door opened and an elderly man emerged. This had to be Vincent. He matched the voice on the phone, gravelly and accented, which she now recognized as Italian. He was perhaps 70, with a full head of white hair, sharp, dark eyes, and the erect posture of someone who had spent his life in service to demanding employers. "Miss Rodriguez," Vincent said as Maya exited the car. "Welcome. I trust the drive was comfortable?" "Yes, thank you." "Good, good. Come inside. Mr. Caruso is waiting to meet you." Maya followed Vincent through the entrance into a foyer that made Mrs. Vanderbilt's penthouse look modest by comparison. The floors were white marble, shot through with veins of grey. A grand staircase curved up to the second floor, its banister carved dark wood that gleamed with polish. Paintings that looked old and expensive hung on the walls, and an enormous chandelier dripped crystal from the high ceiling. "Mr. Caruso is in his study," Vincent said, leading her down a hallway lined with more paintings and the occasional sculpture on a pedestal. "A few things you should know before you meet him. First, Mr. Caruso values punctuality. If he says to be somewhere at a certain time, you are there 5 minutes early, not 1 minute late. Second, discretion is paramount. You do not discuss Mr. Caruso's business, his visitors, his schedule, or anything else you might observe here. Third, when Mr. Caruso is working, you do not interrupt unless it's an emergency. Understood? Understood. They stopped outside a heavy wooden door. Vincent knocked twice, then opened it without waiting for a response. Mr. Caruso, Miss Rodriguez is here for her interview. Send her in. Vincent stepped aside, and Maya entered the study. It was a masculine room, dark wood paneling, floor-to-ceiling bookshelves, leather furniture, a massive desk positioned to face the doorway. Behind that desk sat Dominic Caruso, and despite everything Maya had told herself about not making assumptions, she couldn't suppress a flicker of surprise. He was younger than she had expected, probably in his mid-30s, with dark hair that fell just past his collar, sharp features, and eyes so dark they appeared black in the study's muted light. He wore a white dress shirt with the sleeves rolled up to his elbows, revealing forearms corded with muscle and marked with tattoos she couldn't quite make out from where she stood. A thin scar ran from his right temple down to his cheekbone. He radiated the kind of coiled power that came from a lifetime of violence kept barely in check. "Miss Rodriguez," he said, his voice carrying a faint roughness, as if he had spent the night shouting or smoking. "Sit." It wasn't an invitation. It was a command. Maya sat in one of the leather chairs facing his desk, setting her overnight bag on the floor beside her. Dominic Caruso studied her for a long moment, his expression unreadable. "Vincent tells me you have experience in domestic service." "Yes, sir. 3 years in Manhattan, private households mostly." "Why did you leave your last position?" Maya had prepared for this question, had practiced a diplomatic answer that would downplay the ugliness of her departure. But something about Dominic Caruso's direct stare made her abandon pretense. "The employer's son made unwanted advances. I refused. His mother blamed me for it, and I quit before she could fire me." One of Dominic's dark eyebrows rose slightly. Most people would lie about that. Make up something about pursuing other opportunities. "You asked why I left. That's why. Do you always speak so bluntly? Would you prefer I lie?" A ghost of a smile tugged at the corner of his mouth, there and gone so quickly Maya almost missed it. "No, I deal with enough liars." He leaned back in his chair, still watching her with that unsettling intensity. "The position I'm offering is straightforward. You'll maintain the house. Cleaning, laundry, some meal preparation when I'm in residence. I travel frequently, sometimes for weeks at a time. When I'm gone, your responsibilities are lighter. You'll have your own quarters in the East Wing. Weekends off unless I need you for an event. $2,000 a week, paid in cash every Friday. No taxes taken out, which means this arrangement exists off the books. If you have a problem with that, tell me now." "I don't have a problem with it." "Good. The other thing you need to understand, I have visitors who come to the estate for business purposes. Some of them look like exactly the kind of men your mother probably warned you about, because that's exactly what they are. You'll see things, hear things. None of it concerns you. You keep your eyes on your work and your mouth shut. Can you do that?" Maya thought about Diego's comment, about mob movies. She thought about her mother's fear. And she thought about the $63 in her bank account and the stack of bills on the kitchen counter. "Yes, sir, I can do that." Dominic studied her for another long moment, then nodded once. "Vincent will show you to your quarters. You start tomorrow. Any questions?" "Just one. Why did you pick me? You could hire anyone for this job." "Vincent saw something in your file that caught my attention." "What?" "You took classes at community college, psychology, sociology, literature. You're smarter than the work you've been doing. That tells me you're hungry, you're adaptable, and you don't give up easily. Those are qualities I value." He paused. "Also, you walked away from a job where you were disrespected rather than tolerate abuse for a paycheck. That tells me you have a spine. People with spines are more trustworthy than people who'll do anything for money, easier to predict." Maya wasn't sure whether to be flattered or unnerved by how much he had learned about her from a simple employment file. "Thank you, sir."